In June of last year, then Attorney General Jeff Sessions issued a policy change, making victims of domestic and gang violence no longer eligible for asylum in the U.S. Around that time, 12 Central Americans fled their home countries for those reasons. The U.S. turned them away. Half were detained, the other half deported. The group sued, and in December, a federal judge ruled that the policy change was unlawful, giving those 12 Central Americans a second chance at asylum. The judge ordered ICE agents to bring back the 6 who were deported. But the government shutdown has delayed their efforts. CBSNews.com published an article on this titled, "These Central Americans have a second chance at asylum after being unlawfully deported, but first ICE needs to bring them back." Kate Smith wrote that piece, and she's here with me now. Kate, great to have you with us. Fantastic reporting that you've done here. So of those 6 that were sent back to Central America, does ICE know where they are? Have they been located?
So most of them have been located. What we know about them is that these are individuals who have been terrorized by domestic violence, by gang violence. Often the two are connected. They'll have a partner who's in a gang that is, terrorizing them at home. And we know that all of them fled to the United States. They were all barred the opportunity to apply for asylum. So they weren't even denied asylum. They were the opportunity to even get that. They were deported, and now they're, interesting to note, they're in the same situation, the same environment that they were fleeing to get rid of.
Well, I would imagine that some of them may have gone into hiding, which is why I'm curious whether ICE has been able to track down all 6.
From what we know, ICE has been able to find a majority of the people who are there. They've had a month to do this. The judge's orders came out in December, mid-December, so it's not like they've rushed to do this. They've taken their time. It's been a process to get them out.
And you write about a woman named Nora in your piece who was fleeing domestic violence. Her boyfriend, I guess, was a gang member, and when she tried to leave him, another gang member threatened to rape and kill her, correct?
That's exactly what happened. And it's also important to note here that ICE agents believe that story. They believe all of that happened. They just don't believe it's good enough to be granted asylum. And what's interesting about Nora's case is it's very indicative of the very typical Central American woman's plight in these countries. They have police stations that are run by gang members. They don't view domestic violence they view it as a family issue. It's a household issue. It's not something for the law to get involved with. And the gang is running these police stations. So if you go to the police about these problems, you're making yourself an even larger target.
So have they found Nora? Has Nora been located?
Nora has been located. She is also fleeing with the son, the gang member, who I should also note was her former boyfriend's friend, who threatened to kill the son
don't doubt it.
And her. They have located her. What they're running into issues with now is the government shutdown. So that has just thrown a wrench into this already very messy situation. So ICE agents, while they've been able to locate the most of them, they can't pay for even the smallest things like passport fees. So you look at Nora, single woman in El Salvador, she has to pay her passport fees even though a judge ordered that ICE agents would have to pay for them. And ICE agents are basically saying, we'll get you back later.
So their return is fraught with obstacles still. And then once they make it back to the U.S., they still have to undergo a trial, correct, to see whether they will actually be granted asylum?
So that's a great question, because we actually don't know at this point in time. That is still an argument between the lawyers that brought this suit and the government that they sued. So the way the attorneys understand it for Nora's side, she shouldn't have to be detained when she comes back to the United States. She should go straight to an asylum hearing. That's the way they interpreted the judge's order back in December. However, the government says that Nora and the rest of the other 5 that are in Central America still should have to be detained, go through the initial asylum hearing, and then be on their way to have a full asylum hearing.
So a years-long process. What about the 6 that were detained in the U.S.? What is their fate?
Right. So it's unclear as well. So it sounds like what will have to happen is they'll have to go through, again, that credible fear test, the preliminary asylum hearing. It sounds like they'll have to go through that again, but what they're dealing with, which Nora isn't dealing with, is they're not detained right now. They've already been released. They're already in the monitoring system. The government already knows how to track them, so they're kind of at an advantage.
And so, super quickly, now that the judge has ruled that that was an unlawful change to the asylum law, does that mean it's been scrapped, or is that law still on the books? So
the law is still on the books. There's an injunction, so people who are coming into the country right now claiming asylum on the grounds of domestic and gang violence, they can still get asylum.
Okay, all right. So that still exists as of now.
Yes, but the government appealed it.
Right.
So TBD.
It's on hold. All right,
yes.
Kate Smith, thank you so much for that.